Hello, everybody. I'm Matt Williams, and welcome to this week's episode of the Drone Business Show. We've got our very special guest joining us today, Ben Illingsworth from Illingsworth Productions. You can find Ben at benillingsworth.com. Ben, thank you for joining us today, mate. It's great to see you.
No, it's my pleasure, really, and I like doing this sort of thing where I talk about my experience and I can try and help other aspiring drone pilots, really, and just we can talk together and just learn together, really. Yeah.
That's it, mate. Thank you. And that's what it's all about, right? Like we're here to help everybody learn, build, and grow. And the best way to do that, the best way I think for anyone who's listening to get a head start and get kind of 5-10 years ahead of where they might have been, is to listen to people who are 5 to 10 years ahead of you, right? It's not about reinventing the wheel. It's about, I think, modeling what's already working. And if there's elements from each of the podcasts, particularly with Ben today, that you could take away, that's like, yeah, this is definitely going to help me, that's worth listening to, then that's what it's all about. So no, thank you for your time, mate. It's very much appreciated. And so you and I kind of first met, if you like, and anyone watching on the video, I'm doing the air quotes because we first met yesterday properly, but we first kind of met each other when you started your journey, when you came through the training company that I owned, I think, and did a podcast episode with the guys over there. Is that right?
Yes, I did my GVC through UAV Hub, and I say it's really great because I like the video focused training. It makes it a bit more interesting, really, because I think I did my A2 with another company and it was all just written, and I'm more of a visual learner, so particularly so I like drones, so I did like that sort of training where it was video based. It helped me take the information in better. So yeah, no, it was great.
Interesting. And that's it, right? Like one of the big things, and it's the same with this, some people, we've got the Spotify so that people could just listen while they're out driving or walking the dog or whatever it might be, sat on the train. We've got the video version on YouTube so that you can see what's going on as well. And it's the same in the training space, right? Like you got some people that would prefer the written version or a classroom version. Some people prefer the video version. It depends, right? It's all about doing different modalities, we call it, in the training space, so that people can have different options as they go. But if you wouldn't mind then, Ben, like very successful now, mate. It's amazing to see that everything's going so well. All you've got to do is look at Ben's website. I'll drop a link to that down below in the show notes in Spotify or the comments and the video description in YouTube. Like some of the stuff that Ben's done, is doing, continues to do, some of the awards that you've won and the press exposure you've had is absolutely incredible. So how have you got to that, right? Like, where did it all start for you? What's your background look like? How did you get into the drone space? And then how did you get to where you are now?
Well, basically, my first drone project was I worked on Big Cook Little Cook for CBeebies. So that was a 50 episode deal with them. And I got my A2 qualification as like my first step. And after that, I just started filming in my village of Herringfield, and I was filming just some trains and just experimenting, really. And I think I had a spreadsheet of about 200 different companies, and I reached out to them, and then obviously only a few of them got back, but then one of them was CBeebies, and then they wanted some drone footage to put over Ben flying over a spoon, really. So that was the first credit that I got, really. And then I just, I say in my time off, I always built up my show reel and my website and just kept filming stuff. And yeah, basically, and then from there, I did my GVC with UAV Hub, and I've got my EASA qualification as well. And I know I'm wanting to do probably my America one as well. So yeah, no, I'm always looking to get new skills, and I'm always just flying my drone, whether it's for stock footage as well, which has been doing really good for me recently, and which helps, in my days when I haven't got a job, I can go with my friend Alice, and we'll just travel to a different part of the UK, and we'll film some sunrises and sunsets, and it's it's our passion is exploring new places as well. So it's just great. That's what I like about drones. It's got that element of you could traveling to different places, you're seeing the world from like a different perspective, and I just love it, really. It's like my passion, really.
Interesting. So yeah, there's a lot of really interesting pieces in that, right, to take out of there then. So did you have any background in kind of film or production or anything like that before you got into the drone space?
Yeah, I did a degree at Sheffield Hallam. It was in film production. So I've say I do camera operating work. I've worked with Formula E Goodwood as like a camera operator. I've also done shooting producer work or shooting PD work where you're kind of directing a little bit as well as filming. And so yeah, I've always had that film background. I've done my dissertation on lighting and film versus digital. So I have got quite that um, technical background, which did help me get into drone. And obviously at uni there wasn't any drones, so I couldn't get into it then. But I think they did have them at one point, but they went missing. So that's why they that's why they got rid of them, unfortunately. But yeah, no, I say you've got to be very careful with drones. It's it would be good if students got a helping hand with how to use them, but I guess it was. But also, there's the health and safety, and but I guess I just used my own initiative, and I've always wanted to get into them, and I bought my first drone, and then I just took it from there, really.
So what was your first drone then? If you so and it's great to hear. Or it's very interesting, I think, to hear that you've got that kind of almost hidden from us, right? You hid it away, the little gem. Like,
Yeah,
you've done effectively film production and stuff at university. You've studied it to degree level. So yeah, what was the first drone that you had, and what did you do to get out there and start to? Because presumably you built a show reel, and that's how the BBC found you for the CBBS series, right?
yeah. So basically, my first ever drone, it was just a used Mavic Air. I actually bought it from a police officer. So it was I kind of was on the Facebook Marketplace where I bought it. So actually, obviously, when you're buying a drone from there, you don't really have consumer rights and stuff like that. But because I'd met him and he showed me how it worked, I was all right with it, really. And I actually have worked on some drone productions with police. I worked on one, and it was about the first black police officer in South Yorkshire. So that was quite a nice. That was with Channel 4, so it's called Yorkshire Cops. That was quite a good opportunity. And actually, I found the director from that through the app Fat Llama, which is quite weird. Well, I think it's changed name now, but basically, my advice to anyone wanting to get into drone, you can rent one on equipment renting apps. I think it was only like 20, 30, 40 pounds to rent a drone for a day. And then that gives you an idea of what it's like. You get everything, the batteries and filters usually, and you can take that as your first step before you plunge and buy a drone, really. And so, like, I just enjoy renting it, really, you know what I mean? So, and then obviously I was like, why am I traveling to Leeds so all the way back to pick up this drone? So I just bought one, really, from there.
Interesting. Yeah, and that's actually one of the techniques that I've always suggested to people, particularly when you get into higher end aircraft or aircraft for specific work. Not necessarily inside the kind of TV and film production space, but when you're looking into things like inspections and surveys, and people are looking at spending 10, 15, 20,000 pounds, so 30 to $40,000 on your Matrice 400s and other specialist aircraft. Actually, if you've got an option and you haven't got the work all the time that can justify buying it or leasing it, which is what I would normally suggest, and speak to your accountant is what I would say before you do any of these or make any of these choices. Just rent it if one's available, right? Or rent two for the job and cost it into the job itself.
No, definitely, I completely agree. I mean, I've done stuff at Olympics, and they wanted certain cameras, and we just rent them. It's just easier when you buy a piece of equipment. It's a liability if it's not being used. So I agree. I think renting equipment out is really good. I mean, this is more DOP and camera work. A lot of the top DOPs they'll rent. If they want an Alexa, if they want a Red, if they want FS7, FX9, they will rent because each production's different. If it's more of a run and gun or documentary or you know, feature film, they'll all want different equipment, really.
Yeah, and that's it, right? That ties into whatever the director or producer or whoever is in charge of that, or the DOP, whatever they want the look for the film to be, they decide that. So, and that's one of the things I've always found with the drone piece in particular. Like, we provided the pilot and the observer or the camera operator, whatever it might be. So we provided the pilot, the people to operate the drone, and the gimbal. But then we always generally had production provide the camera, the lens, the camera control. So, focus, zoom, iris if they needed to, focus, iris, zoom, and then the downlink as well if they wanted to be able to see it on the ground. And we always left that to production generally because then it wasn't our problem, right? It means if a
Yeah.
shot's soft because their focus puller didn't get it quite right, it's not my fault. But yeah, also I suppose if something goes wrong with the equipment, then it's not necessarily on you. But yeah, so that's an interesting place to go in terms of the drone piece. Then you did also mention you created a spreadsheet. So you've got your drone, you've got your basic drone, you've started to build a show reel up, and then you created a spreadsheet of businesses or opportunities. Did you say? Could you dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, like I go in just potential companies I want to work for. I mean, there are also email verifying online applications where you can type in someone's name and the company, and then it will tell you if that email's valid or not. So which will help you getting that your list. You can put through a list of quite a few people, like hundreds of people, really, and then just narrow it down. Into different sectors that you want to work in, whether it's sport, feature film, TV, document, and then from there, just do a little bit of research into the company, what that particular production company specializes in, what shows they work on, and then from there, I wouldn't overcomplicate it. Just do like a sentence. If you just do a sentence about, oh, I really like this BBC Two show you've worked on. I've worked on this, and it's a little bit similar. And just putting that one sentence just makes a massive difference, because if you're competing with other people for that job, it will make you stand out, and it will make you think that you care about them. It should, but like, yeah, if you put that, that one sentence will make all difference, because they get hundreds of people probably contacting them, and it helps you to be rememberable, really. And obviously, when I'd contact someone, I'd include my rate sheet, CV, and I said my mentor, my previous mentor, Giles Moore, he suggested me that I have a rate sheet. So it's basically what my rate is, what my equipment is, just in a nice professional sheet. You can make them in Adobe InDesign has got templates for it, and you can it's just better than saying my rate is this and that's it. If you've got your rate and it talks about your equipment, your awards, what your credits are, and what's included. So you could talk about my insurance, liability insurance, if you've got other people helping you. Just briefly, what these are the paperwork I'll do. So definitely, I think if you've got that, it just adds to that professionalism, really. If you've got a few of these extra documents, really.
Yeah, I think that's a really useful insight. Thank you, because I think a lot of what you said there is unfortunately what we see a lot of people not doing, and then they complain that there's no opportunity in the industry and there's no way into particularly the TV or the commercial production side of things. And actually, I would argue that there is. You just have to know that it takes a little bit more work than just being sat there and expecting it to come to you. You've said there just a one sentence email saying, "Hey, this is me. This is what I've done or what I'm capable of. Here's my website. Here's my CV. Here's my rate card. I've worked on other stuff before. Could I come and help you? Is there anything I could do to help you on this?" Is something that people just don't get. Like, people don't send, and the people who do, I think, generally tend to get the work.
Yeah, no, definitely. It is a bit of a numbers game. The more people you contact, the better. But it's also good to have a bit of a focus and have a certain area instead of just contacting everyone. Um, and yeah, no, definitely. It is difficult. There's a lot of people competing for jobs, but there is a lot of work out there. There are, but also it is a case. Sometimes it can be timing. Like, I've contacted people before, like particularly how I got to work on Ambulance. They were looking for a drone pilot at that particular point, and I was there. So sometimes you have to keep, like, I think if you've got a database of people, I would say every 6 months, just to follow up, just say, even just a blog post. This is my latest blog. This is what I've been working on. Just keep, obviously not too much, but just keep refreshing people with what you've been working on, because sometimes it is timing. You know, you've got to be at the right place, right time. It's kind of how, um, when I got in with Formula E for the first time, it was during COVID, and they didn't have a lot of camera crew, and you know, and they wanted someone to go to Mexico, and for me that was just an amazing opportunity. It was good timing, and the broadcast TV world is very competitive. They didn't have as many camera people to pick from, so no, definitely you just got to keep being positive and keep being persistent, and eventually opportunities will come. It might take a little bit of time, but you just got to keep putting yourself out there, and it's just about, it's about your confidence. It's something I've struggled with quite a bit, you know. But no, but I do think, like, if you've got that confidence, if you're going on a job, if you give a briefing to everybody, and health and safety briefing is really important, and you talk about what's going to happen, and you know, if you see something that's not happening, if happening that you don't like, and if it's a safety hazard, erase it. I mean, I worked on a documentary once at BBC, and the director we're in a bit of a rush, and he wanted me to film in a certain area, and it weren't safe, and I said no. You know, so I think you've got to have that confidence and to know what you're doing is correct, really, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And that's a really interesting point. So I ended up doing a dramatization of some film drone work for a drama on ITV. And so that's Channel 3, one of the channels in the UK for those listening abroad. And it was a night shoot. They had a wind machine. It was a really narrow kind of alleyway, not an alleyway, avenue of trees. The trees were all overhanging. Some really high profile actors on set at the time. And the shot they wanted, I didn't think could be done with the drone we were flying. It was an 8 foot wide drone at the time, right? So at
Yeah,
night, just horrific conditions. And I said, no, I can't do it. And they were like, well, that's what you're here for. That's the shot we need. I said, I can't do it. Sorry, it's too dangerous, too risky. And actually, we came up with a way to get pretty much 95% of what they wanted from the shot by changing things, but it was super safe. And off the back of that, I then got a contract with that production to do all of the episodes, all the drone flying for all the episodes, because the DOP actually turned around and went, actually, that the other drone guy that we used, the reason you've come in is because the other drone guy crashed.
yeah,
And actually, because he did something that we asked him to, and he just did it. And we'd rather use you because you came up with a way to do something safely that actually, you're right, we shouldn't have asked you to do. Like, we wouldn't have asked you know, someone on a crane to do that. So yeah,
no,
and it was really
definitely.
interesting.
That sets apart the professional people from just anyone who has a drone, really. Just the health and safety, because that definitely they would have seen you do that and think, wow, this guy, he knows safety, and we'll hire him again. You know, and it's same with that production, that BBC production I worked on. They were a bit stressed for time, but they did appreciate that actually, if I would have taken off, it would have voided insurance and everything. So that's important. And I also think it's, you know, there is, you know, we've got, particularly with DJI drones, they've got a lot of health and safety features, but you've also got to think, if you do something wrong, you're one accident away from potentially everything going. So you've just got to be very careful and respect the rules. And a lot of productions do want to cut corners and do things quickly, particularly when, if it's the last shot of the day or the sun setting. But you've got to
Yeah,
stick to your principles and in the operations manual and everything. So yeah,
yeah, that's it, mate. You just one of the big things that you mentioned there, and I think it's interesting to touch on. So you mentioned about having a blog and keeping it up to date. You've got a very good blog. You're very good at doing this and putting on, you know, the different kind of press releases about you, and the logos even of what you're up to, your latest work, your blog. So if anyone listening or watching the podcast wants to see that, go to benillingsworth.com, click on blog and see what Ben means. Like, there's no better way to see this in action than someone who's actually doing it and it is working for them. When you mentioned about also being in the right place at the right time and being in people's minds, if I may, I as well would just, even if you're just starting out, go and grab a HubSpot account. We're not affiliated with them in any way. It's a CRM, a customer relationship management tool that we use. People often say to me, like, how do you know when it's like, well, how did you know it was my birthday? And to send me a quick email on my birthday, I'm like, I don't, to be honest. It's in my CRM. I've set it up so that when I find information out about people, that particularly those that I want to maintain or build a relationship with, I put that data in, I get it to send me a reminder on the morning of their birthday, and I just go, hey Ben, it's Matt, hope you're having a great day, just wanted to wish you a happy birthday. And I do write it by hand, right? It's not a automated template thing, but then it's just like, oh, that's really nice, that guy remembers me. And that is one of the big things, like with this, when you update your blog, just put a thing in on HubSpot for those producers, directors, whatever it may be that you've started to connect with. Send them an email every 6 months or so and say, hey, this is me, this is what I've done over the last 6 months, if there's anything you need, give me a shout. It's a really powerful tool.
So is that the main CRM you use, HubSpot?
Yeah, and there are loads of others, right? There are loads of options out there. HubSpot, I'll be honest, gets very expensive very quickly when you start using it commercially. But I think right now, at the time of recording this, I think you can put 5,000 people in there and you can send, 1,500 emails a month for free. And it's like, you're as a small business or, 1 or 2 person drone company, you're never going to need more than that, I wouldn't suggest, and that's free. So yeah, that's a big tool that we use very, very powerfully to do what you're saying, but just to almost automate it, because we just get the reminders and send stuff out.
No, that sounds great. I think definitely with the CRM, it keeps you up to date, and it's, if you've got a job, if you've got something you need to follow up on, you know how life gets. It's good to obviously write it down or have it in a CRM to call this person on a certain day and time. So they're definitely very useful, and it is good to have a blog because you can send it out to very different people quite quickly. And I definitely think with the particular ones I've got, if you have lots of pictures, try and keep it just a few minutes long. It depends obviously, but keep it a few minutes long. Keep it quite basic and to the point, and then no, they can do quite well.
Nice. What do you use, because I know we're connected on LinkedIn in particular, and it's something that I personally use quite a lot, and I encourage all my students and people to get involved on, because you can get that reach. Do you use LinkedIn, and have you, well, I can see it on your website actually right now, so I know you've got LinkedIn, and we've obviously, like I say, connected through that, but do you find that you've got many leads or business through LinkedIn, or is that not something that works for your area of expertise?
I have got quite a few leads through LinkedIn. It helps. The good thing about LinkedIn is you can find out who the decision makers in a particular company are quite easy. You can look at the spinal system or organization and click on that. And you've got that more personal approach because obviously you can see what the person looks like. So, LinkedIn is quite good. I recommend everyone go on it really. And obviously it's part of your, you can share your work and what you've done. Like I shared my stuff with Hallam. I did some drone shots of Hallam, and I think that reached like 40,000 people or something. So it's quite a good. It's a good source for your to showcase your work really, and obviously like I've got LinkedIn Learning as well, and that's really good. There's courses on not just drone, like courses on communication, editing. That's quite a very good resource as well.
Yeah, that's a really good shout, actually. There is a lot of interesting stuff in terms of, especially on the LinkedIn side, for marketing and sales and stuff like that, particularly if you're starting out and you don't quite know what you don't know yet. It's quite difficult to find everything in one place, or to find someone who's teaching you the things that you need to know. And that is quite a good resource, or pool of resources to be able to find that from. So just moving on to, again, one other thing that you mentioned in the very first kind of introductory sentence that you gave. You mentioned about stock stock footage, I think you mentioned, and said that you use it a lot now, or you're leaning into it more, and it's providing you, by the sounds of it, revenue when you're not able to go out and fly. So could you tell us about your experience with that and how people can get into it?
Yeah, definitely. It is quite difficult to get into in terms of getting money quick. It's taken a good few years until I'm getting regular, decent, all right money per month, really. And basically, there's a few ways of doing it. You can do it or by yourself. You can go on Shutterstock, Pom5, and upload your stock photography and stock video. If I was to recommend a starting point, I would do stock video first because you can make a lot more money with stock video than photography. I think with stock photography, you get more downloads, but for less money. But if someone pays 10, 20p for a photo and it gets downloaded thousands of times, you can still make a decent amount of money. But with stock video, you can typically make 30, 40, £50 per clip, or even in the hundreds. It just depends on how it's being used and if it's editorial or commercial. So pretty much the editorial is basically if it's got a copyrighted logo or recognizable people or faces on, you can still sell that sort of video, but it's only going to be for news, and you need release form or a commercial permission, to get a commercial license for that. And obviously you can upload that, but if most of the time, you're probably not. So, but then if you can sell commercial footage as well. So as long as it's not got any recognizable trademarks or people or locations in, that gives you a little bit more reach. But yeah, basically, at the moment, I'm starting to sell my stock photography because obviously I've uploaded all my video now. And one way of doing it a bit quicker is through Blackbox. So basically, with Blackbox, you upload your footage once and it will send it to each stock site for you. They take 15% cuts at the time of this video, and you can also get a curator, so you can get someone to do your metadata for you, and they will typically you'll pay them 20% fee. So it depends what you want to do, really. But like one thing I've started to do it myself now because we've got AI now. Obviously, you've got to be very careful, but um, you've got ChatGPT, and what you can do is you can ask it to write 50 keywords for you. Um, like my advice is you just ask it to do 50 keywords that are for stock photography or stock video, and then just give it as much information as possible. If it's sunset, sunrise, time of year, and then it will give you some really good keywords. But obviously with AI, it's not perfect, so you've got to you look at the result it gives you. But it's a very good copy and pasting starting point. You know what I mean? If you had to write the 50 keywords for every clip individually, it would take forever. So it's been brilliant. It's saved me quite a bit of time, and it's great. Really, if it's made me think maybe I don't need a creator, but also if you've got a creator that you hire, they can research the area. Like the one I use is really good. He researches the area. He'll look at the exact street where the footage is taken, and definitely I think with stock footage or photography, the metadata sometimes can be more important than actually the clip, because if no one can find it, it's not going to sell. I mean, when I first started on Blackbox, I've got these brilliant time lapses when I were in Italy. And the annoying thing is when you upload it, you can't upload it again. And the metadata was really bad. So that's my advice, is to learn about SEO and metadata. But if you want to do it, and obviously they've got the user guide, but to be honest, if you can use AI and just and learn about AI and to do your keywords and your descriptions, and then you can tweak it yourself. And obviously, there'll be some clips where certain things won't be in the clip that the metadata is generated. But no, stock footage is really good. Like I think I made £500-600 on one clip, which was really good. And you get your data set royalties as well. And so it's definitely the stock video. It is really taken off, but you've got to um, definitely film um, better stuff than other people to get sales, particularly like for shots of New York. There's probably millions of them, but there's probably not many shots of a plane. You know, that's 4 hours hike away from where I live, and there's not many shots of um, like in the snow in Peak Districts of people snowboarding. I don't know. You know what I mean? So it's good to have a good niche. I also recommend flying when it's sunny and nice weather, because generally cloudy footage doesn't sell as good as, because usually people like councils, travel, tourist boards, they buy a lot of stock footage and they will want nice, bright footage, but not always. If it's a dark documentary or about crime or something, they might want footage of London, which looks a bit rough. So it's good to get a variety if you film the location at different times of year, different times of day. It's yeah.
I think the stock footage route's really interesting, right? So the sites that you're on about, you got Shutterstock. Shutterstock is one of the biggest. Pond 5, I think you mentioned as well, and then this black box one is blackbox.global, I believe, and
Yeah, that's correct.
that's the kind of distribution, I think, would be what it is. Like they distribute for you, but obviously, as Ben said, they take some of the royalties. But yeah, interesting. So we're about to do a video. So if people are listening to this live, there's a video in production at the moment over on the YouTube channel that will drop in the next couple of weeks, where we talk about how to create a show reel local to you, so that you can start to get yourself out there, and how to pull all of that together from the planning all the way through. But an element of that is then how you upload that into the stock footage websites, so that you can start to sell footage locally to you potentially. But one of the big parts of it, as Ben said, I think, is, personally, having done this over the years, go on to the stock footage websites, if there's the option to do, which there is on a lot of them, and see what other people are doing and see what's selling really well, and then try and take those clips from a different angle, or better, or replicate what's working. It's about not just going out and flying and shooting anything that moves. It's about grabbing stuff that is actually going to work and is going to sell as well. So, I know we chatted about this yesterday briefly, but what is it that you kind of, you've done the traditional drone stuff. You've obviously done a lot of ground stuff as well over the years. That's kind of how you started out, by the sounds of it. What do you see being the future, and if anything, like, what are you moving into now that you're seeing as an opportunity in the drone space that perhaps hasn't existed before or wasn't accessible?
I think definitely FPV, because it's got that extra feel, and you can be more precise, and so definitely FPV. I'm moving more into that now, and definitely I say I'm shooting quite a lot more stock footage now, and I know we've talked about that, but you've just got to keep shooting. I think I've got 4,000 clips at the minute, and I'm wanting to get to 10,000 or 20,000. So that's the goal, really. You can't just shoot a few hundred and not get any sales and just give up, really. So definitely, it is a future where we don't 100% know. AI is definitely taking over quite a bit. I mean, my worry is, I've used a lot of AI tools, and you can get, like, will it eventually replace stock footage? I hope it doesn't. If you could, it's being used in car photography quite a bit, because, as you can imagine, you can just generate a car, generate a desert background, generate if you want a sunset or sunrise. So that is something to be aware of. But I think for but I think for events like live streaming, something that I've been getting into quite a bit, and the live events aren't going anywhere. That they had quite a big ramp up since COVID, really. So I would say, for anyone, if the live events is definitely something to get into. And FPV has definitely got more of a learning curve to it. You can learn on a simulator. I think it's Try FPV is the one I use. There's quite a few of them. You can get them on, the Steam App Store. But no, I think the future's really great. But obviously, there's a bit of uncertainty, with everything. But no, definitely, I think, like with the stock footage, like the goal is to kind of replace a normal income really with it. I know someone who makes 30 grand a year just on stock footage, and he's got lots of
Crikey.
stuff in America. So it is possible, but it's not a similar with like investing. It's not an overnight thing. It will take years. But it's just great when there've been days when I've not been well and I've still been getting a little bit of money, which is good. So it's no, definitely I am like optimistic about the future. But it's the thing with AI. A lot of jobs are being cut. A lot of like even with like cameras, I know like they've got for some live broadcast work I've done, they're using robotic cameras now that are not even manned by it because you can save money on operators. So it's they're definitely. I think there's lots more. There's not as much factual TV being made as well, which is a bit of a shame because I did quite a bit of that. But definitely fictional stuff on Netflix that's really exploded, and there's loads of that now. So there's a lot of opportunities in that area as well. Um, but definitely, no, there's a lot. I think in commercial work, fictional film, sports, they're areas that are always going to be a lot of opportunities in drone or just general camera work. So there's even though in some ways it might get harder, but also there's still a lot of opportunities really.
That's it. So all about building your spreadsheets, getting that networking done on LinkedIn, and kind of reaching out to people and putting your face in the frame, right? Just very quickly back onto that FPV piece. It's I'm sure I've seen that you've got a blog about FPV and practicing and stuff. Do you see are productions and marketing agencies and things like that asking for FPV more at the moment, or and is that something that you're like, I had to learn it because my clients are asking for it, or did you do that preemptively?
I learned it because clients were asking for it, and also, it was also I've seen people do it online, and there's the cool videos where they'll go through a mountain or they'll chase a car, and even when I went with Formula E in Valencia quite a number of years ago, when I saw there were a drone person following this car, it was just I was just doing the one of the camera operators on it, like, but I just like wow that must be an amazing job to have. So, um, no, yeah, it's in more demand. There's a lot more health and safety with it. It's not like I think with the stock photography side, you can't just rock up somewhere and just start filming FPV really in a lot of cases, unless you're in a very isolated area with no one around, that keeping away from uninvolved people is, there's no, you can't, if you're in like a park, you can't guarantee someone's going to go up to the drone. So, and obviously with normal drone, you can kind of fly it away, and particularly with the Mavic 3, not Mavic 4, which I've got, it's got 3 lenses, so you can be really far away and you can zoom. So that is something to bear in mind with FPV. There's a lot more paperwork and planning, and it's a lot harder to get stock footage with FPV without prior arrangements. But it's really great. It's definitely exploding, and there's like a lot of opportunities in FPV at the minute because not as many people can do it really because it's more of like a specialism.
And that's it, isn't it? I think the barrier to entry at the moment in the FPV space, even though there's aircraft coming along now that allow, that make it much easier to fly, much more simple to fly, a bit more carefree than particularly FPV of the past. But at the same time, there is still that barrier to entry. So that you've got to have that differentiation. And I think, again, still, I mean, I talked about this in 2020. I said FPV for me is the future. It's going to be one of the big things that people are going to lean into. We are seeing it in more and more places, but there is still an opportunity there. I think that if you want to get into the space, there is room, particularly in that side of things. So, yeah, no, really interesting. Listen, Ben, some absolute gold nuggets today, mate, for everybody. Thank you ever so much. It's really interesting to get the perspective of someone who has achieved so much in and around the industry and has so many credits to the name, very unassumingly. So, no, thank you for your time, mate. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you for having me on the podcast. And if anyone has any questions at any point, I don't mind trying our best to help or guide them, really. But it's just put yourself out there, really. There's nothing, just try your best to put yourself out there. That's the main thing, and don't be afraid of rejection, because the more rejection you get, the better, really, to be honest, because the more opportunities you'll get.
That's it. You've got to develop that tough skin, particularly in the industry, right? It's one of those things that you've
It's a very cutthroat industry,
very
definitely.
cutthroat. Yeah, right place, right time. But once you have made that connection, once you build on that network, actually what you'll tend to find is that the same people will come back to the same people over and over and over again, and you can make a very good living from it. So yeah, mate, thank you ever so much. It's lovely to meet you, and thanks for your time. We'll get you back on again to find out what other credits you've added to your CV over the last 12 months or so. But yeah, I'll drop links to your kind of LinkedIn and your website, benillingsworth.com, down in the show notes if you're listening on Spotify, and like I said, the video description in YouTube. But that's it from me. That's the pod. Thank you, Ben. I've been Matt Williams. This is the Drone Business Show. Until next time, fly safe and blue skies.